In Norway, in the year 1000, winter could kill you inside your own home. The cold outside reached minus 30 degrees Celsius, but inside, the smoke, the darkness, and the bodies packed together created a different kind of hell. This is the story of survival in medieval Norway, where fire was both savior and executioner. The year is 1000. Western Norway. The Kingdom of Norway is still young. Christianity is spreading, but the old ways remain strong. The land is unforgiving. Forests of pine and birch stretch for hundreds of kilometers. Mountains rise like frozen walls. Fjords cut deep into the coast, bringing salt wind and storms. Winter lasts 6 months. From October to April, the sun barely rises above the horizon. Temperatures drop to minus 20, minus 30 degrees Celsius. Snow covers everything. The ground freezes solid. This is not a place where humans should live, but they do, and they have. For thousands of years. Survival here requires knowledge. Knowledge passed down through generations. How to build, how to hunt, how to preserve food, how to endure the darkness. One mistake means death. This is a longhouse, the Skali, the heart of Norwegian survival. It measures 25 meters long, 6 meters wide. The walls are built from oak and pine logs, each one cut and shaped by hand. The gaps are filled with moss and clay to keep the wind out. The roof is the key to survival. First, a layer of birch bark, waterproof and flexible. Then turf, layers of earth and grass, sometimes half a meter thick. The turf insulates. It keeps heat inside, but it also makes the roof incredibly heavy. Inside, the structure is simple but ingenious. 2 rows of wooden posts, each trunk carefully selected for strength, support the massive roof. Between them, a long fire pit runs down the center of the building. The floor is packed earth, covered with straw, and sometimes wooden planks near the fire. Along the walls, raised platforms serve as beds. These platforms are crucial. Cold air sinks. By sleeping elevated, families stay warmer. But here is the terrible truth about the longhouse. It is designed to trap heat, which means it also traps smoke. There is no chimney, only a small hole in the roof. Smoke rises, but slowly. It fills the upper half of the building like a gray fog. The air near the ceiling is toxic. Eyes burn. Lungs struggle. This is why the platforms are low. You live in the lower half of the room beneath the smoke layer. You learn to move carefully, stand too quickly, and you choke. In winter, the door is sealed with furs and wooden boards to keep the cold out. Light comes only from the fire and a few small oil lamps, burning seal fat or fish oil. The smell is overwhelming. Smoke, unwashed bodies, animal fat, drying fish hanging from the rafters, wet wool, urine stored in barrels for tanning leather. This is home. A single longhouse holds between 15 and 30 people, an extended family. Parents, children, grandparents, unmarried siblings, sometimes thralls, slaves captured in raids or born into servitude. Privacy does not exist. You eat together, sleep together, live together. In winter, you also share the space with animals, sheep, goats, sometimes a cow. They are kept at one end of the building, separated by a low wooden partition. Their body heat helps warm the structure. Their smell adds to the fog of odors. The day begins before dawn, though in winter, dawn never truly comes. By November, the sun rises at 9 a.m. and sets by 3 p.m. By December, it barely appears at all. A woman wakes first. She is responsible for the fire. If the fire dies during the night, the cold will kill everyone before morning. She adds wood carefully. Birch bark for quick flame. Oak for lasting heat. The children wake slowly, huddled together on the sleeping platform, under piles of wool blankets and animal furs. Breakfast is simple. Porridge made from barley, sometimes mixed with dried berries or a handful of nuts. The porridge is cooked in a soapstone, pots suspended over the fire. Soapstone is prized because it heats evenly and does not crack in the flames. If the harvest was good, there is bread. Hard, dense flatbread made from barley or oats. If the harvest was poor, there is only thin gruel. Hunger stretches the winter long. There is no breakfast table. People eat where they sleep. On the platforms, bowls balanced on their laps. After eating, the work begins. Outside, the cold is a physical force. It attacks exposed skin within seconds. Fingers go numb, faces burn. The men dress in layers. First, a linen undershirt, then a wool tunic, thick and rough. Over that, a wool cloak, sometimes lined with sheepskin or fox fur. Leather boots wrapped in wool strips. Mittens made from sheepskin, fur side in, but nothing truly stops the cold. The first task, firewood. A longhouse consumes enormous amounts of wood. In deep winter, the fire must burn continuously, day and night. One longhouse uses between 10 and 15 cubic meters of wood a month. The wood is stored outside, stacked against the walls, under turf covers. The men must dig through snow to reach it. Each log must be inspected. Wet wood creates more smoke. Rotten wood burns too quickly. Inside, the women work. They card wool, pulling the fibers straight with wooden combs. They spin the wool into thread, using drop spindles. They weave on large, upright looms that stand against the wall. Every piece of clothing is made by hand. A single wool tunic requires weeks of work. A cloak, months. There are no stores, no merchants in winter. If something breaks, you make a new one, or you go without. The children help where they can. A girl of 7 learns to card wool. A boy of 8 learns to carve simple tools from bone and wood. By age 12, they must do adult work. Childhood is short. The elderly work too. A grandmother tends the fire. A grandfather repairs fishing nets, his fingers stiff with cold and age. If you cannot work, you are a burden. And in winter, burdens are dangerous. Food is rationed carefully. The harvest from summer and autumn must last until May. Barley stored in wooden barrels, dried fish hanging from the rafters, salted meat packed in barrels with brine, root vegetables buried in pits beneath the floor. But even with careful planning, food runs low by March. Portions shrink, bellies ache. The weakest, the very young, the very old, die first. Night is when the cold becomes unbearable. Even with the fire, temperatures inside the longhouse drop below freezing. Frost forms on the walls, near the door. Water in wooden buckets develops a skin of ice. Families sleep together for warmth, parents with children between them. Bodies pressed close. Wool blankets piled high, furs on top. Bearskin, reindeer, sealskin. But the cold still reaches you. Toes go numb, fingers ache. You wake multiple times to adjust the furs, to pull a child closer, to blow warm breath into your hands. The smoke never stops. Even at night, it hangs in the air. People develop chronic coughs. Eyes become red and irritated. Lung disease is common. Many do not live past 40. Disease spreads easily. One sick person infects the entire household. Fever, dysentery, respiratory infections. There are no doctors, no medicine, except herbs and prayers. The Christian priest might come to bless the sick. The vulva, the old wise woman, might prepare a poultice of yarrow and honey, but often there is nothing to do but wait and hope. Childbirth is especially dangerous. Women give birth in the longhouse, on the sleeping platform, with only other women to help. Many women die, many infants die. If a child survives the first year, there is hope. But that first year is brutal. Hygiene is nearly impossible. There is no running water. In winter, the streams freeze. Snow is melted for drinking and cooking, but it requires firewood, always precious. Bathing is rare. Perhaps once a month, water is heated in the large soapstone pot, and people wash in wooden tubs, one after another, using the same water. The rest of the time, you simply endure the dirt, the sweat, the smell. Lice are constant. Fleas live in the straw on the floor. Skin infections are common. The latrine is outside, a simple pit covered by a wooden structure. Going there at night in -20 degrees is an ordeal. Many people use wooden buckets inside the longhouse and empty them in the morning. The smell of urine is everywhere. Some is saved for tanning leather. Some is simply thrown outside onto the snow. But the longhouse is not primitive. It is the result of centuries of engineering, trial and error, adaptation. The turf roof is a masterpiece of insulation. Half a meter of earth and grass keeps the interior 20 to 30 degrees warmer than outside. In summer, it keeps the house cool. In winter, it traps every degree of heat. But the weight is immense. A turf roof can weigh 10 tons. The wooden frame must be incredibly strong. The posts are sunk deep into the earth. The horizontal beams are locked together with intricate joints. No nails, only wood. This knowledge is passed from father to son. A master builder is respected, valued. His skill keeps families alive. The fire pit is carefully designed. It is dug below floor level to create a draft. Air flows in from gaps near the door, feeds the fire, and rises toward the smoke hole. The stones lining the pit retain heat for hours after the fire dies down. At night, these stones are wrapped in cloth and placed in the sleeping platforms. Living, heating stones. They can keep a body warm until dawn. The Norwegians also use soapstone for cooking and heating. Soapstone absorbs heat slowly, but releases it for hours. A soapstone pot placed near the fire at dinner stays warm until morning. A soapstone bed warmer can keep your feet warm all night. Food preservation is an art. Fish is dried on large wooden racks outside. The cold, dry air and wind turn the fish hard as wood. Dried fish can last for years. It is soaked in water before cooking, then boiled or grilled. Meat is salted and smoked. Barrels are filled with brine, water saturated with sea salt. Pork, mutton, sometimes beef, packed in layers. The salt prevents rot. The meat turns dark and tough, but remains edible through winter. Butter is buried in barrels. In peat bogs, the cold, acidic environment preserves it. Some butter buried this way lasts for decades. Every tool is made by hand. Axes forged by the blacksmith. Knives sharpened on whetstones. Wooden bowls carved from birch. Leather straps cut from cowhide. The blacksmith is essential. Without iron tools, nothing works. Axes cut wood. Knives prepare food. Needles sew clothing. A broken axe in winter is a death sentence. The blacksmith works in a separate building, a forge with a stone hearth and bellows made from goat skin. He heats iron in charcoal fires, hammers it into shape, quenches it in water. The ringing of his hammer is the sound of survival. By March, the longhouse is a place of desperation. The food is nearly gone. The barrels of barley are empty. The dried fish is finished. Only a few pieces of salted meat remain. People eat thin soup made from bones, boiled multiple times. They eat bread made from bark flour, ground birch bark mixed with a handful of grain. It tastes like dirt and provides almost no nutrition. The children cry from hunger. The elderly stop eating, giving their portions to the young. Some die quietly in their sleep. This is when the community survives together or dies together. Neighbors share what little they have. A family with extra fish gives some to a family with none. A hunter who kills a deer divides the meat among several households. Generosity is not kindness, it is survival. If your neighbor dies, his labor is lost. His family becomes a burden. In a land this harsh, you need every person alive and working. Religion becomes desperate. The Christians pray to their new God, asking for spring, for food, for mercy. The followers of the old ways make offerings to Odin, to Thor, to Freyr, god of fertility and harvest. A farmer might sacrifice a sheep, spilling its blood on the frozen ground, praying for an early thaw. A mother might place a small silver coin at the base of a sacred tree, asking for her children to survive. Faith is survival. Hope is survival. And then finally, spring. The snow begins to melt. Water drips from the roof. The streams unfreeze, running fast and cold with snowmelt. The sun stays above the horizon longer each day. The door of the longhouse is opened. Fresh air rushes in, pushing out the smoke, the stench, the darkness. People step outside and breathe deeply for the first time in months. The work begins immediately. Fields must be plowed, seeds planted, fishing nets repaired and cast into the fjords, animals taken to pasture. There is no time to rest. Summer is short. The harvest must be gathered before October. Everything depends on the next 6 months. The longhouse is cleaned. The straw on the floor is raked out and burned. The sleeping platforms are scrubbed. The walls are inspected for damage, cracks, rot, water leaks. Repairs are made. The turf roof is checked. New grass grows from the old turf, green and thick. If there are holes, fresh turf is cut from the hillside and packed into place. The longhouse must be ready for next winter. This was life in the year 1000, in Norway, in the frozen north. This was not adventure. This was not glory. This was survival. The longhouse was not a home. It was a machine designed to keep humans alive in a place where nature wanted them dead. Every element, the turf roof, the central fire, the sleeping platforms, the smoke, the animals inside, was necessary. Remove one, and the system fails. And failure meant death. The people who lived this way were not primitive. They were engineers, survivors, experts in their environment. They understood thermodynamics before the word existed. They knew how to insulate, how to trap heat, how to manage airflow. They built structures that could withstand the weight of tons of wet earth and months of snow. They knew biology. They understood which fish dried best, which meat salted longest, which plants stopped infection, which herbs reduced fever. They knew community. They knew that survival required cooperation, sharing, collective effort. But they also lived with constant suffering, with smoke burning their lungs, with hunger gnawing their bellies, with cold seeping into their bones. They buried children. They watched parents die from disease. They endured months of darkness, cold, and fear. And they did it, year after year, generation after generation, for centuries. We remember the Vikings as warriors, as raiders, as explorers who crossed oceans and discovered new worlds. But before all of that, they were this: families huddled in smoky longhouses, farmers praying for spring, mothers trying to keep their children alive. Through one more winter, the ships, the battles, the sagas, those came from people who survived this, who were shaped by this, who learned that life was harsh, that nature was merciless, and that only the strong, the clever, and the cooperative survived. In the year 1000, in Norway, survival was not a given. It was a battle fought every single day. And these people, they won. If you want to see more immersive historical reconstructions like this, life in medieval Europe, Viking survival, ancient civilizations brought back to life, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. History wasn't just battles and kings. It was real people, real suffering, real survival. And we're bringing it back. Subscribe now.